What's going on, everybody? It's Collin Wilder here, former Badger safety, here on the Transfer Portal CFB podcast. I'm here with Andrew, here to talk about the 2022 Wisconsin football season. Ready to get started, ready to talk some ball.
That was very good. We got to start over, though.
Yep.
I'm playing. We're not. No, you're doing good on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, guys, that was Collin Wilder, former Wisconsin Badger safety. He's still in Madison. Collin, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Enjoying the summers here in Madison. Enjoying the summertime. Nice weather. It's a little different than in Texas right now. So enjoying that while I can before I go back to Texas for a bit.
Yeah, I was just up there last week, and man, I don't know what you're talking about. I was burning my ass off while I was up there.
Yeah. The weather hasn't been too soothing, I guess. It's from my parents. It's been in the low hundreds and not much rain, a lot of humidity in Houston. So yeah, I'm not necessarily looking forward to going back to that, but excited to see family though, and you get a couple higher UV rays at least.
I mean, listen, man, how do I just put this, man? Like I was golfing when I was up there last week, and my God, it felt like I was burning my ass off already. But like, hey, listen, I'm here, and like, hey, listen, we're closer to football season. That means we're getting closer to cooler weather. I'm already excited for it. I'm ready to go back to stadiums. I'm ready to, be outside again. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about. So, listen, before we go into it, we got to talk a little bit about your Katy boys for a second. Last year, they were among the best teams in Houston. I think they probably were the best teams, not named North Shore, but all they did was they just ran into the behemoth that was Austin Westlake, with Kate Klubnik and them boys. How do you feel about your Katy boys going this season?
Always very confident with Katy football, regardless of what their schedule looks like, what their season, what happened to their season the year before. The one thing about Katy football is Gary Joseph gets those boys ready to go, and how they prepare from January all the way up to this point. So I'm really excited for those guys. I'll actually be down there to watch a lot of games. I look forward to talking with Coach Joseph a little bit, catching up with him. But no, I'm really excited. I think they got some good talent. Katy's known for having really good running backs. Seth Davis is pretty freaking good. He's going to Mississippi State. Caleb Coger, he's our returning starting quarterback. I think this is his third year as a starter. So I mean, those guys look like they got the right weapons in place, and Katy's defense is always set to a high standard, and I know those guys will be ready as well. So should be good to go.
Do you anticipate it being at that Atascocita game? That's like the third game of the season.
I probably so. I mean, I'm most likely I'll be home that weekend.
Atascocita was pretty kick-ass last year. I mean, they kept it pretty close with North Shore a few times.
Yeah, I'm very excited with that too, because Travion Blaylock, one of our safeties here, his brother is a starting running back at Atascocita.
Yeah, his brother is right now.
Yeah, he's pretty freaking good. Yeah, we usually do. I think I still like my boys regardless of who they got in the backfield. So, but no, it should be a good game though. Should be. I mean, hopefully I'll be home to watch it. I should be there.
All right, cool. So, for those that don't know, Collin, I mean, fortunately, injuries did catch up to you. You kind of were forced to retire early, but like, you obviously had a very successful football career. You were part of a couple good seasons with Houston, with the Cougars. You were a state title winner with Katy. You were on one of the best Texas high school teams of all time, and you had some really, really good seasons in Madison. When you kind of like look back on your career, like what's kind of like the biggest lesson that you think football's taught you?
Gosh, I mean, football teaches you so much. I've been so fortunate to have a very memorable journey. I've been a part of some really great teams, been playing with some really, really great players. And, but the thing is, I put it out on my Twitter a couple of days ago. I've had a lot of time to reflect on playing ball and, reflect on my career. And honestly, when I first think about football and how special it is to me, I don't think about the interceptions I made. I don't think about the championships that we won, the big games we won, the rivalry games. I don't think about any of that stuff. The national rankings, all that stuff is great, and you need to strive for it. You need to go for it. You need to be the best you can be. You need to be the best team you can possibly be, and always be prepared for those. But at the end of the day, it's about the people you're with. I value more at this point, being done, looking back. I value more the people who I played with, the people who made an impact on my life outside of football, the people who grew me in my character and my confidence level. Those are the things that I remember the most. And it's things that you're going to carry with you when you're done playing, and it goes on forever. You know, the interceptions, the big plays, the crowd chanting your name, all that stuff. I mean, it's very, very temporary compared to the relationships and what you learned out of those things, how you grew as a man, how you grew as somebody who can go through adversity. All those things is what, you know, at the end of the day is what truly matters. So I've had a lot of time to think about it, and I truly think, you know, those are the most important things. But gosh, I loved hitting people. I loved playing with violence. That's one thing I'm going to miss too. I love putting my body on the line for my brothers, and sometimes football gets you. Football chooses you to be one of those guys that's the example of injuries catching up to you. And but I'm grateful for every bit of it.
Love it. Do you remember how we ended the last podcast we had with you? The segment that we had? It's one of your favorite plays.
How did I? What? It was one of my favorite plays.
No, well, kind of. It was our pick six segment.
Was it a hit against Minnesota?
No, I'm saying like we're about to do a segment called the pick six.
Oh,
yeah. The quick fire question is what I was trying to get at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, but we're probably about to touch that anyways. So by the way, before we go in, did you ever try out Sal's tomato pies?
No, I didn't.
You're disappointing me.
I didn't. I know. I think we're mid-season, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I haven't tried it yet.
All right. So as we go to this pick six, let's just jump right into it. What would you say has been your favorite memory ever on the football field?
Favorite memory ever on the football field? Gosh, it was probably this past season, getting 2 interceptions on senior night against Nebraska. You know, it's pretty special being the one person to control 85,000 people. And you're doing it with the guys that you love, and sending the seniors out in the right way. You know, in that same game, it came down to the wire. That was probably the most memorable moment on the field. I mean, it was awesome. It was so fun.
I was there in attendance. I'll take half credit for that. Who was the hardest QB and the hardest wide receiver you ever played against? So, like, not necessarily like a QB wide receiver duo, but like one player from each position do you think was the hardest in terms of defending against?
Yeah. I mean, playing at University of Houston my freshman year, we played Baker Mayfield. We played Lamar Jackson, who won the Heisman. Both of those games, I didn't necessarily play a lot, and I only played a couple plays on defense. But, you know, those games, we actually contained those QBs really well, surprisingly, because they had such good years. But I'd probably say Justin Fields was the hardest QB to defend, to contain. I mean, that guy was way bigger than I expected on the field. And I mean, it took like 3 guys to try to, you know, finally get that guy down. He really was able to extend a lot of plays. And then receiver wise, I remember at Houston, Anthony Miller at Memphis.
Really?
He was a dog, a straight dog. He was a pain to defend. And I got to say, in 2019, the University of Michigan wide receiver corps, they had Donovan Peoples-Jones. They had Tariq Black. They had another receiver who was, I mean, huge. I mean, across the board, they were at least 6'3" and up. They were humongous. And like, they eventually, like, we played really well that game, you know, defensively. But at the same time, though, anytime that ball's in the air, like, you had to go earn every bit of it. So that corps was the real deal as well. But Anthony Miller, he was a dog. That's one guy who I thought was a pain to defend.
For me, it's Jalen Hurts. I actually played Jalen Hurts in high school, and that dude was, yeah. When I was a freshman, he was a freshman on his team too, and we played Channel View in a preseason scrimmage, and I was the defensive end, and he was the same size as me, essentially. Obviously leaner and like taller, but like obviously a hell of a lot stronger. And I just remember trying to tackle the guy, and the dude was fucking hard. Like he was one of those guys where you tried to wrap up, but he felt like gravel trying to take that.
Yeah.
It really showed like how he was about to go into, Alabama. I think that's kind of where his recruiting started. What is the best and the worst stadium you've ever played in?
Best stadium, Rose Bowl. Rose Bowl Stadium was awesome. If you want to count, if you don't want to count bowl games, playing at Ohio State, that was unreal. Probably the loudest stadium I ever played in. I wish we played Iowa when we weren't in COVID, or I wish we played at Iowa when it wasn't during the COVID era, because I would have loved to see how that crowd was. Another fun stadium actually was Purdue Stadium. I thought that was sick. Yeah.
I would expect them to be in your worst, to be honest.
I loved it. Grass field, smaller stadium. I mean, you're stretching and warming up in the park, in like a parking lot area. I just thought it was extremely gritty. And then it felt like you were in high school again, playing at a high school stadium. You go down there, you warm up on the field, whatever. But then on the sideline, this was right before Halloween. Like the week before Halloween, they had the student section is like probably within 5 yards of our bench, on our side of the sideline. And they had costumes on. They were talking trash, all this stuff. And that's when we had like 4 or 5 turnovers that game. So every time we turned the ball over, we just go back up to them and, we'd be chirping at them. And, by the end of the game, we had some fun. But I enjoyed that. Probably the worst stadium, Northwestern's easily number one.
Really?
Ryan Field sucks. Absolutely sucks. It's there's no juice. Where juice goes to die. The grass is about as thick of like, you hit your golf ball in the rough. I mean, if you hit a golf ball at Ryan Field, you probably wouldn't find the ball. It's one of those where the blades of grass are like crossing each other. I mean, it's brutal. You feel slow, you feel sluggish. There's no juice, especially when you play them later on. It's cold. That's one where you really have to lock in. You got to find a way to get your guys going, because that's just an easy trap game. Easy trap game.
What, did you play at Ryan Field before that 2020 game?
No, I didn't. That was the year that I had to sit out, because we played them in 2018 at Ryan Field and we lost that game too. But then we played them in 2020, and honestly, I don't even think the crowd would have made a difference.
It was just so slow, to be honest. Like every time you see a game, and like when Kenneth Walker, when he broke off that 70-yard touchdown for Michigan State to open up their season against Northwestern at Ryan Field, my instant reaction was, how the hell are you running that fast on that stadium? Or like on that grass?
Yeah.
I really don't get it. Is that part of the reason why you feel like, not trying to throw shade, but like why Wisconsin always struggles whenever they play at Ryan Field? Because I think they only got like 2 wins there, probably since like the Barry Alvarez era.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a toxic, not toxic, but it's a harder environment to be in. It's something where you can't really explain it, but there's just an energy there to where you have to make sure that your guys are ready to go and ready to play, and you really have to lock in. It's very easy to go down a sluggish road in that stadium for whatever reason. I mean, even guys who I know, some of my best friends play at Northwestern. I've talked to a lot of guys there, and they don't even like playing there. They're Northwestern.
And yet they chose to commit there.
Well, yeah, I don't know. They don't like. They hate their grass. So, it's just that just shows how interesting it is to play there.
If you would have said Rice Stadium, I probably would have been a little happier, but that's a personal side note. What is your favorite and least thing about both Texas and Wisconsin?
My favorite thing about, that's easy for Wisconsin is probably the summers. I truly feel like the weather and the sun sets and things to do in Wisconsin. I've gone up north this summer. You got Summerfest. You got plenty of lakes to go on, around Madison, around the state of Wisconsin. Summers, I think, are the best. The worst, I mean, the winters. That's a pretty easy one too. It gets pretty cold, and I had to learn how to walk on ice here, like walk on the sidewalks. You don't really notice ice sometimes, and I'm walking like it's completely dry outside and just slip and eat it. I had to learn how to do that. But best about Texas, the food.
Yeah,
I would say
definitely
Tex-Mex, Cajun, barbecue. We got it all.
crawfish.
Crawfish. Gotta love it. That's probably number one, the best. And then the worst part about Texas, I mean, we're staying with weather, but I'd say the heat. For Houston at least, it's the humidity. I can deal with heat; it's hot, but when you throw the humidity with it, that's a tough combo. And Houston's probably the most humid place that I've ever been in. But the food trumps it. The food makes it worth it.
Definitely. You obviously know the city well enough, as much as I do. All you gotta do is just find a good food truck park, and it's like, as long as you don't eat anything too spicy, you should.
Yeah.
Just don't get habanero salsa. Okay, so we spoke to one of your guys at UH a couple months ago, Derek Parrish.
Oh, that's my guy.
And not sure if you heard, but the UH team, they went to Taste of Texas last year in July, I think it was, and they had an all-you-can-eat steak eating contest at Taste of Texas.
Oof.
And Derek ended up winning the individual competition. He says, this has actually been confirmed by his teammates, he ate 7 pounds of steak in a row at Taste of Texas. He said that they were eating sirloin, ribeye, T-bone, New York strip. They ended it with a tomahawk, and if you made it through the tomahawk, you just got slabs of ribeye afterwards. So I know how much football players would love to eat. In one sitting, how many pounds of steak do you think you could power through?
I'm at my best. I'd probably say I can't eat as much as I used to. I used to love getting the tomahawk there, and that's like a 32 ounce. If you go no sides, no appetizers, I could maybe get close to 2.5, 3 pounds. No way I get close to 7. Ain't no way. I'm not built like Derek Parrish. Tell you what, that guy's different.
Yeah. So no folk at a child trip with him for you. So that's kind of
He'll clean out the kitchen.
So number 6. So we obviously had a lot of big time news, with Big Ten, USC, UCLA, going to Big Ten now. We're probably not even stopped there. This is obviously a guy in suits type talk, but I would definitely say that from when you left high school in 2016, even a lot's changed from 2016 until now. But as we go closer to, like, let's take a look at a good 5 to 10 years from now, how much more do you think college football will change within the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I keep seeing more and more talks about mega conferences, 2 mega conferences, which I don't really know what we would do with that, because it's hard to, if you have 22 teams or 20 plus teams or whatever in 2 different conferences, I don't know how you necessarily create a winner of each conference. I mean, maybe there is one, but that's a possibility. 2 mega conferences. I know the Pac-12 will be gone, in my opinion. I don't think it'll be there anymore. As we can clearly see that's slowly going away as we speak. I think it's just tough for that conference with TV rights and with playing on West Coast time. It's hard to get the same viewers as it is with teams being able to play at 11 a.m. and playing prime times. So I don't know. But then when it comes to NIL, when it comes to paying players, and I mean, players might be getting paid TV rights at one point, just because of that's where all the money is. And it sounds like the Big Ten starting to create I don't know, representatives of each team for up like a player representing their conference. And I don't know, it kind of sounds like a union in my opinion, but I don't know. I don't know. That seems like a talk as well, but clearly college football isn't what it is from when we were growing up. The college football that we loved before, it's not the same. Recruiting is way different. And, being, college football playoff, that's different. I think that will possibly expand. Then you got the NIL players getting paid. I mean, it's just not the same. It's not the same. Could be good in some good ways, in some bad ways. Could also be very negative. But I mean, I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot that's changed. I think a lot more is going to change.
So we obviously know college football has essentially been about the money probably ever since playoff era's been in. Like playoff era was essentially the biggest domino to fall that started the culture of what it is today, especially with those TV deals with ESPN. It kind of sounds like that as we approach more, once these conferences are starting to be gone, because I think the ACC is another conference that's in conversation. They got a really, really tough TV deal. I mean, I think they have the same TV deal where the schools make the same amount of money over the next 15 years, which is almost unheard of when you hear about what the Big Ten and the SEC is making. But it sounds like we're kind of going much more towards a business-driven, professional. And, I'm not saying that union is good or bad, but it's like you got to start understanding like the legality that goes into what college football is and the legal fees that will have to take place whenever you start talking about unions in college football. But now that we got past this point, I ain't trying to go too deep in on this. Let's go a little bit on the actual Badgers here, the Wisconsin Badgers. The boys up in Madison. It's kind of what we're here for. This is going to be a very different looking team in some aspects. I'd say primarily on the side that you were on last year with the defense. With guys like you, with Faion Hicks gone, with Caesar Williams gone, it's going to be a very young secondary. But I crunched the numbers down a little bit. As long as Jim Leonhard has been the DC at Wisconsin, they finished outside the top 5 in total defense only once, and I think he took over in 2017. So obviously you've been there since 2018, and in the 4 seasons, I know you had said 1 year, but in those 4 seasons, what do you think he does best in terms of keeping the units fresh year in, year out, and able to keep such a stagnant unit?
Yeah, that's what makes Coach Leonhard so special, besides his confidence, besides his ability to understand offenses and how smart he is. I mean, all that makes him very special, the way he can relate to players. But I think what really separates him as well is after each season, he chooses to go back, watch the film, and he looks at, okay, what holes did we create? How can we make things look different? How can we still disguise plays? Okay, we had a lot of success on this. Teams are going to be expecting this. How can we make something different but make it still look the same? He loves to go back and adjust, and he's always making adjustments. Even if he's even if he had a lot of success on one play, he's always making an adjustment on how he can make it better, how he can make the front better, how he can make things how he could give offenses a different look. And I think that's what makes him special is he never settles. He's had great years. Since I've been there, he's only gotten better. And the reason he does get better is because he looks at how he can make himself better. He looks at the mistakes he makes. He's just very realistic with himself. And he just continues to make adjustments. He doesn't settle.
Now, like I said, obviously with the secondary being completely revamped, even the front seven is going to look a lot different. I mean, luckily Keanu Benton is still going to be there, but guys like Leo Chanel, Jack Sanborn, those guys, they're off to the NFL now. We're going to see guys like Nick Herbig and Noah Burks take a step forward. Who are some other players that you anticipate that will step up for that defense this season and like fill in some of those shoes?
100% John Torchio. He was our third safety that rotated with us last year with me and Scotty Nelson. And the thing about Torch is he's one who he's very good at disguising. He's got a great nose for the ball. He finds a way to create turnovers, finds a way to take the ball away, whether it's through interceptions, through forced fumbles. I think he's a very special guy, and he's taken a huge leadership role this year. And, I expect him to have a big year. And then we have transfers as well. We have transfer corners who have come from, I believe, Kentucky, Toledo, UCLA. From what I've heard, those guys are doing really well, and they're earning a lot of trust on the field. So I expect those guys to be able to up the level of play too on this defense. And because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the secondary, making plays on deep balls, being able to communicate properly with those guys. And, I expect them to do really well.
Sweet. Now, we obviously spoke about this guy a lot more. There's even been some turnover in the offense. Bobby Ingram, tight ends coach from the Baltimore Ravens, now coming over, taking over Joe Rudolph's job as the OC up in Madison now. And we're going to see a bit of a different Wisconsin offense going into the season. Look, obviously, Graham's still going to be there. Braylon's going to be there. But it's going to be really retooled with Chez Mellusi coming back. Now we got a lot of talks about how this got potential to be the best two-headed monster in college football in terms of at the running back position. We're going to be seeing a lot of young guys like Skylar Bell, coming up, with Danny Davis and Kendrick Pryor off for Madison now. What can you I know you're as a defensive guy, but what is something that you could probably tell us a little bit, how much different would you anticipate this wide receiver room to look? Also, Marcus Allen, did I say his name right? Yeah. But.
Yep. So, I think, wide receiver wise, I'm really excited for this group, young talent. They have a lot of potential. I think it's just completely up to them to how great they want to be. And, I'm really excited for them. Clearly very talented. They got a transfer from UCLA. I was able to watch a couple of spring ball practices, and he seems to be a guy too that they really like. Taller, lankier guy. So I'm really excited, for that opportunity too to give that guy shots in the air, deep shots. So I think with Coach Bostad being moved to the offensive line, in the past, I believe when he coached the offensive line back during the Russell Wilson era, our O-line was, some of the best in the country. And not to say that we haven't been. Our O-line usually is at a high level of play, but I think Bob Bostad will get those guys ready to go in the run game. And then you add Braylon Allen, you add Chez Mellusi to that mix, and both of those guys are very special in their own ways. Both different types of backs, but they find a way to make big plays. And I'm really excited to watch this group. I think these guys can really finally put it together to do something special.
Well, I think what we're going to be seeing a lot of, this is just from my opinion from outside looking in, is I think we could be seeing a lot of two-back sets going into the season, because obviously we got Braylon, who's the downhill guy. We got Chez, who I think could be very versatile in the passing game. I think we could probably see some motion from Chez where he may go out into the wide spot. I could see him totally doing that, because I think at this point what we kind of want to see is I think we want to see some versatility on that offense this season with especially with Graham. Let's see, can Chez Mellusi be open in spaces? How do linebackers, how are they going to read the running backs once they both come out? I kind of want to know what, is this going to be a type of offense where it's going to be defenses are going to be kept guessing over which running back is going to get the attention? Because, even that Penn State game, this was before Braylon was even really a thing, on the TV, was Chez was really coming out and he was looking like the running back one for Wisconsin. But even before he got injured, Braylon was still coming up.
Right. And I think that's another thing that this whole Wisconsin group has to be prepared for any team. When you're going into a season, injuries happen. You don't want them to. You want to avoid them as much as possible. But with football being football, people will get hurt. So you just have to be prepared to adjust to injuries, guys being prepared to fight through injuries to make it to the next game. And I think those teams who can adjust the best, those teams who can find a way to make it to game day and be at their very best, even if they're not fully healthy, those are the teams that play on New Year's. Those are the teams that play on New Year's and beyond. And I think just the biggest thing is finding those leaders in the Wisconsin locker room to make sure that they're ready to adjust. They're ready to be the be able to play at the same level when wrong things hit the fan. And I think that's another key, is just finding those leaders that can bring those guys along and can say, hop on this bus or get ran over.
Shit, love it. Who do you think is somebody that can like really like emerge as like a vocal leader on that team this year?
Well, Nick Herbig. Nick Herbig definitely is one that I've noticed, and Chimere DK. We didn't talk about him in the wide receiver room, but
That's true.
He's I think he'll be their go-to guy. I think he'll be their go-to guy on and off the field. I love that guy to death, and I think he's ready to step into a huge role this year and be their guy, on offense. So, but vocally, I think he's one as well. And John Torchio stepped up as a leader as well, just from how he handles himself, how well he played last year, and how well he plays on the field, to how he handles himself off the field. He's earned a lot of respect as well. So it's all up to those guys. And I think more leaders emerge throughout the year. That's just how it goes every year. And every team is different. Their style of leadership is going to be different than last year's style of leadership. That's not really the point. It's just about how you can get those guys going regardless.
Another guy that we didn't really talk about when we were talking about the receiver room was Dean Ingram, the secondary man last year, switching
Right.
over to literally
Right.
his dad's side of the ball, while I obviously don't know, I can only really guess like how, Ravens utilize their tight ends over the last couple of years, but it kind of like makes me wonder, like, there could literally be no other guy who knows how he plays other than a father coaching his son,
Right.
So it kind of like makes me wonder, like, obviously Ingram went over to the offensive line, obviously he had influence from, his father becoming the OC, but do you think he's also somebody that can like really step up in that offense too, like maybe like create space in secondary? Because, my initial reaction was he had the most snaps among returning defensive secondary players last season. And that's a guy going to the wide receiver. Obviously, you don't make that switch unless you know something that other people don't.
Right. No, he's a very athletic guy, very athletic player. You can expect him to make some pretty big catches. And, he's been our punt returner, so he's clearly athletic enough to make plays in space. So I'm really excited for that as well. I mean, there's a lot of guys that we didn't mention. So if these guys watch it, I hope they can forgive me. But I think with Dean Ingram, you got Chimere DK, you got their transfer from UCLA, you got Skylar Bell, you got Marcus Allen. It's a deep room. And I think it creates a lot of opportunities for the offense, which again, I'm really excited for, especially when you have Dean's dad running the show. So should be a pretty good combo.
All right. Now, obviously, I know that you said you're not going to harp on this part too much, in terms of, this is more of my thing. You just tell me where I'm out of pocket on this, things on that, from a fan side looking in, obviously a fan only knows so much. There's a belief out there that nobody knows football less than fans. I played defensive end in high school. I know some stuff. I'd like to believe. I know what A gap, B gap, C gap is. So pretty much, I think something that I think is very important for Wisconsin going into the season is consistency in the passing game. I feel like this is a lot fresher group of guys. You guys just spoke about the UCLA. We obviously know about the younger guys like Skylar Bell. He made a fantastic catch in that Las Vegas Bowl. Even Marcus Allen, he made a couple plays in that Las Vegas Bowl too. And I think one thing that a lot of people, they forget whenever we talk about Graham Mertz is after that Notre Dame game last season, he only had one game. I don't think he had any games after that Notre Dame game where he threw more than one pick in the game. I mean, obviously he didn't have the volume, but if you look at games like the Nebraska game, the Rutgers game where he just went absolutely insane, to be honest, and he made a lot of, he was able to extend a lot of plays in that Las Vegas Bowl. I don't really think you could give me a true reason like why I shouldn't feel optimistic about Graham making an improvement in 2022. Like, obviously the memes and the jokes, they're going to fly out, but let's be honest. If you actually paid attention to the offense post-September, I think there was a lot of improvement in the passing game that I don't think a lot of people were giving credit for. Yeah,
I mean, I think Graham's ceiling is very, very high. And I think and rightfully so, he should have high expectations because he has great ability. And, I think he's been wanting to put it fully together. And I think the opportunity for him to do that this year, he's extremely excited about. He's worked his tail off. He's made some big transitions with his body this year, which is it's been really cool to see. And I think, with the preparation and then with the opportunity to make big plays, once he creates big plays, I think that confidence level will just continue to rise. And I think for any player, including myself, that I had to work on is, I was prepared. Yeah, I love football. I love to be out there. I knew what I was doing. But if you're missing confidence, you're never going to be the best player you can possibly be. And that was a huge thing for me. And I think once I was able to gain that confidence, I was just able to be free when I was on the field. And I think all it takes for Graham is just going to be a couple big plays that he'll make. And once that confidence continues to grow, the sky's the limit for him. He has a huge ceiling, and it's going to kill me watching him from my couch. I'm not going to lie.
One thing I will give him a lot of credit for is, you see it in social media posts, you see it on sidelines. It feels like that nobody has his back more than his own teammates. And that's truthfully something that I love seeing. I don't think I see, even a lot of these All-American players that I see on social media, they don't even get the same love that I see a lot of the players give Graham, to be honest. And, these are obviously guys that practice with him every day, travel with him, every away game. They know him better than any broadcaster, any blogger is going to know. So the fact that they still got their faith in him, there should be zero reason why other people should not either. Now, in your opinion, obviously you're still close with the program. You're still in Madison right now. So I'm not trying to grab headlines when I ask this question, but in your honest opinion, you say you're going to be on the couch this season. What do you want to see from the team throughout this fall, and what would you consider a successful season for them?
Well, I think, this program has been wanting a Big Ten championship for a long time now. And I think, since I've been there, anytime we didn't have that opportunity or anytime that we didn't make it to the Big Ten championship and give ourselves the chance to win it, it was a failed season. And then, we've gotten to the Big Ten championship and we failed, and that's a failed mission. It's a failed mission in the season. And I think those values stay the same this fall. I'm sure those guys won a Big Ten championship. And for the Big Ten conference, you win the Big Ten, 98% chance you go in the college football playoff. You win the Big Ten, you're in the college football playoff. So, but we've, as a program, we've wanted a Big Ten championship for a long time. And I think that's the number one goal. That's the number one goal for this team. And I would call that winning a Big Ten championship would be a successful season. But, the expectations are high. And, I've been in that meeting room where we've talked about it over and over, and I'm sure the values stay the same.
What's it like, just because I'm curious, what was it like after that 2019 Big Ten title loss? Where was that? It was a massive start in the first quarter. I remember Big Cat from Barstool was hyping up that whole game. I was too, but what's the mood like inside the locker room after an absolute demoralizing loss like that?
It's lifeless, especially when, you had the lead. That happened in the Rose Bowl as well. It's lifeless when you can't finish the game. And, we were very fortunate to still, because, we had a decent season that year. We were very fortunate to, play in the Rose Bowl. But no, when you're up 21-7 at halftime, you should finish that game with a win. And, it sucks. Nobody's talking in the locker room. You can hear a couple guys every now and then slamming their helmets and stuff, but that's about it. Not much is said.
Well, at least it's a sign that everybody cares. I think that's the most underrated aspect of it. And the fact that, Justin Herbert looked like no shade to lower level MAC quarterbacks, but that's what he was made. That's what he looked like in that Rose Bowl game. I mean, it really wasn't a question that I had, but like, what was it like to play against a guy like that, and, for him to be honestly effectiveness, I don't even know if that's a word, like non-effective, like, a guy that was getting this first round NFL hype, but to like completely lock him down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just proves how good our defense was that year. We had a great defense. Zach Bond, Chris Orr, those guys really put a lot of pressure in the pass rush game, and defensively, our secondary was still growing at the time, but we were playing at a high level as well. And it sucks when you shut down the pass game, but at the same time, though, I think he had 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns, and you got to be able to make those plays too. And he found a way to lead his team to a win. And it sucks. It was a 1-point game. We still talk about that. Me and the guys. It's brutal.
All right, let's go to a lighter topic here now, because I'm getting depressed now on this. You obviously spoke a lot about some of these guys. I spoke a lot about the wide receiver room. You were big on John Torchio a little bit, but if you had to pick one player from both the offense and the defensive side to truly break out, like we're talking, All-American type, season from these guys, who would you pick? One from offense and one from defense?
Well, definitely. I mean, it's that easy. All-American, it's easy to pick, Braylon Allen or Chez as well. But, All-American wise, I would say Joe Tippmann. Put our center, Joe Tippmann, in there.
Remington, preseason watch list.
Right. I can see him having a great year. He's been very reliable for us for a couple of years now. And I think this is an opportunity for him to really break out and lead those guys on the line. And defensively, I can see Nick Herbig having an All-American season. Keanu Benton as well. He's a great player. I can see Nick Herbig being one to lead the nation in sacks. I think he's that good. I think he's that driven to be able to make it happen. So I really like those two guys. Those two guys have very special potential, in this upcoming season.
I was going to say Nick too, because the insane thing about that defense last year was that we talk about the players that are, being replaced and some of the guys that are coming back, but the leading sack leader from that defense last year isn't even in the NFL yet. And that was Herbig. He led the team in the sacks last season. I think he was second on the team in tackles for losses. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. I think, from my understanding, I think he's bulking up a lot heavier going into this season too. And that's also really scary, because whenever I watched Herbig last season, it was like he was the guy that was the first off the line. He was the first to get around the edge, to get around the tackles. But like, it's like now this guy, he could probably take I'm fun with their phone there, but he looks like the type of guy that's just going to be like a do-it-all guy. He's reminding me a lot of TJ Watt during his last year at Wisconsin.
Yeah, no, I mean, Nick's wired differently. He plays like a hungry dog. And he's only continuing to get better at his technique, continuing to get better in his knowledge with the defense. And I think this could be a huge year for him. He has the opportunity to. And the funny thing is, we probably played half of our game in like 4 or 5 games this year, or this past year. He could have had way more than 9 sacks or however many he had. And if he always tells me, he's like, I got to get 3 sacks this game, 3 sacks. And if he doesn't get 3 sacks, he says he failed. So he's wired differently. I'm excited.
He must have been pissed after Leo got his 3.5 sacks against Army. Then probably asking like why it wasn't himself.
Well, our Army was a different game. That was with Army's offense. That was just bullets flying everywhere type of game.
All right, so like I said, I kind of already gone with Herbig because I think he's that spectacular player. I think he's going to be the undeniable leader of that defense going this season. But to call Braylon Allen a breakout player would be kind of lazy. But I do think he's going to have that All-American type season. Speaking of which, did you go to his charity game in Fond du Lac?
I didn't. I was out of town during that, but I FaceTimed some of the guys and they looked like they had a good time.
It's my hometown right there. So I think in terms of the offense, I talk about him a lot, but like I think Skylar Bell made enough plays in that Las Vegas Bowl, especially in that first quarter. I think he's going to be the most underrated wide receiver in the Big Ten going into the season, because right now with that wide receiver room, I don't really think we have a true number one receiver, being made out there yet. It feels like it could just be anyone, whoever Graham feels like throwing the ball to the most. But I think Skylar is the type of guy that I feel like would outclass the average Big Ten West, corner. I could totally see him, being a lot faster than what a lot of these Big Ten corners and safeties are used to. So that would definitely be my breakout player on the offense. Do you have any hot takes for the for the team this season?
Hot takes. I'll say John Torchio leads the Big Ten in interceptions. It's a hot take that I have.
How would you describe his playing style? Would it be like a little bit like you, downhill type of guy, or do you think he's more of a more of a zone coverage type of guy?
He's a finesse. He likes to disguise like man going into zone. He's definitely. He can play both, but he loves zone because it's an opportunity for him to just have his eyes on the quarterback, kind of hide his way into stealing a ball. He's really good at that. So I think Coach Leonhard will put him in great positions to make plays. I'm a huge fan of Torch. So that's my hot take. I think he leads the Big Ten, maybe even the nation in interceptions. That's my hot take.
I think Braylon is going to be first team All-American, which the crazy thing about it is this is actually supposed to be his freshman year. We aren't even supposed to have heard of him up to this point, but he was able to take care of his stuff up at Fond du Lac. But I think he's going to be first team All Big Ten, and I think he's got and I think he's going to outgain Travion Henderson this season in terms of rushing yards. I think he's going to be that good. I haven't crunched the metrics on it, but I can almost guarantee you that if you would have taken from that Illinois game last season on October 8th, I think that game was, till the end of the season, I'm pretty sure he would have been extremely close to leading the nation in rushing yards. And the fact that he crushed 1,000 yards last season without even playing in September it's amazing. I don't really know how the hell he does it. I think that kind of like closes us out. Actually, do you kind of like have any other like things you got to say about this team that do you think we should be expecting?
I think this team is going to be different than last year in a lot of good ways. And, I'm really excited to watch these guys get after it. And I'm going to be driven nuts watching it from Texas, but I'll come up for a couple games. But I'm just so excited for these guys. These guys work their tails off, and they deserve everything that they get. So just really excited for them.
Now, from what we know of the schedule, what would be some games currently on the schedule that you would have circled on for them that you would expect it to be like a really key game for them throughout the season?
Obviously playing at Ohio State, playing at Michigan State, and then playing at Northwestern. That'll be a huge one. So
at Iowa too.
At Iowa, yeah. They got to be road warriors this year, and I think their leadership will come into play in a lot of positive ways during those games.
I'm really looking forward to that Braylon and Jalen Berger matchup at East Lansing this season. That feels like that's got potential to be some bad blood right there, but we're not going in too far into that. Guys, you made it this far. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed Collin talking about his Katy career, his Wisconsin career. Guys, thank y'all so much for listening.
Thank y'all.